Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to you. My name is Nick, and on the channel now, on Spectrum Games at least, we've reviewed 450 games, well just over. So as usual, it's time for a recap. If you missed any of the proper reviews the first time round and you like the look of them, then check out the game. So here we go. And it's first off with Don't Buy This, a rather aptly named game. This one consists of 5 rather dire mini games. This first one is a Formula 1 game where you have to overtake everyone to win the race. There's 2 Fido games, which is like a dog wagging his tail to, well, hit stuff. There's a fruit machine on there and a game called Weasel Willy, which is probably the best of the bunch. Don't buy this, they weren't kidding. I think they was probably trying to use reverse psychology to get people to buy it. I didn't fall for it, I hope you didn't either. Shadow Dancer, converted from the arcades, quite a good game but rather difficult. The game is monochrome as you would expect, but plays similar to the Commodore Amiga game. It's you as the samurai with your trusty dog. It's level based and you can send your dog in to kill people on certain bits, which does help a great deal. I've never completed this game. It's probably easier with a few cheats on to see a bit of it, but you know, large sprites, there's a lot to like here. It's not a bad game but probably not my favourite. Sorcery, this game might have been good back in the day, but I don't think it's aged particularly well. You're on a quest to find different keys and such. Graphics remind me a little bit of Cauldron, although the collision detection is quite cruel and you'll be losing lives quite quickly. When I did the review, I did it with a Pokon. A few people's favourites back in the day, but I think you can only really like this one if you've got quite a lot of nostalgia. A little bit frustrating, but you know, there are worse games out there. Solar Invasion, bundled with a few other games, this one makes use of a light gun. I was trying to do it with keyboard, which is a little bit difficult. I then had to go with, I think, joystick. But basically you must shoot everything in the sector in this space adventure, and then you go on to the next one. You're saving various planets from some dreaded horde, I believe, but it's standard fare. As I say, with a solar gun or laser gun or light gun, whatever it's called, it's probably a bit better. Bongo, curious music. You control a large mouse in a factory, going around trying to collect bits of cheese by avoiding, or diamonds I should say, avoiding all the other things here. There's one alligator chasing you, there's slides to fall down, and it's a puzzle game, a level game. Reminds me a little bit of Minor 2049er, which I've since reviewed on the Atari 2600. It does slow down quite massively when there's more than 2 characters on the screen. That's only one down thing. Now, Super Soccer, Spectrum football games are really hard to recreate, and this one is very slow. It's a very boring affair, and again, it doesn't work. There'll be a few football games we'll be coming to in this. I'm not a great football fan on the Spectrum. There's a few good ones on the Commodore 64. People tend to like Matchday and Matchday 2, but that's still a little bit slow for my liking. But those two are a lot better than Super Soccer. Super, it certainly isn't. There's a trade descriptions act. Soccer Pinball, I think we reviewed a few football games in this section because the World Cup was on at the time. I don't mind this one, although the flippers do tend to get a little bit sticky. This version is better than the Commodore 64 version. If you're into football and you're into pinball, this is probably your only option. It's okay without being spectacular. Some nice music to accompany it along the way. You must score a goal against that goalkeeper there. A number of flippers. It's compared to other pinball games on the Spectrum, it's up there. It's a worthy competitor. Gary Lineker's Superstar Soccer. It's probably the best football game of the ones we reviewed in this section at least. The ball sticks to Gary's feet. The one disappointing one on this though is both teams are exactly the same colour, and makes it very, very difficult to see who's who. Quite often you will lose control of where Gary is because you're only controlling one player, and once you've done that it's impossible to get back into the game again. So it's another game which is okay but not particularly brilliant. Pogo Stick Olympics, what the hell is going on here? A number of mini games here where you're always on a pogo stick. It doesn't quite work, and as a kid if you'd been bought this you would have got frustrated quite quickly. It's a curio if anything else. Probably seemed a good idea at the time, and it's from an era where every subject as possible was attempted on the Spectrum without fear of losing huge amounts of money because they wasn't investing huge amounts of money in it. Pogo Stick Olympics, a very weird one. Tea Leaf Ted, the bear version. This is a homebrew. You must collect all the objects on the screen and then you can get to the door to escape. It is quite fun. There's two versions of this about. Both play exactly the same. There's a bear version and a human version where I think you're playing either a policeman or a criminal on the run. I quite liked it. A few people in the comment section didn't like it that much, thought it was a little bit boring, but I think it's quite good. Graphics are good, it plays well, it's a nice idea, and I'll go back into this anytime. Enduro, a game I first played on the Atari 2600, which was brilliant. This is nothing like the quality of that one, but you have to judge it for what it is. And as a game in its own right, it is quite addictive. It's alright. You are on an endless endurance race. There's different weather conditions you'll come up against, different backgrounds that go from light to day, but you must overtake a certain number of cars in a certain number of time. If you crash into anyone, you get held up. It's alright, but not as good as the Atari 2600 version, but not bad. Street Soccer, I didn't mind this. It's quite clever. It recreates or tries to recreate the football games you had as a kid was in the street, where you couldn't have a normal pitch. There'd be cars about the place and you know, bollards, and you just do jumpers for goalposts or chalk on the wall, and that was your goal. So it represents that quite well. Again, it's a little bit difficult to control, but as football games go on the Spectrum, it's not bad. Quite silly as well. Now, I really like Derby Day on the ZX Spectrum. It's a betting game. The only other betting game I've sort of like reviewed before is Snail Racer. This is a bit more refined than that. You place your bets with the bookmaker, and if your horse wins, you get paid the money. If your horse loses, well, then you lose the money. If you're too good at the game, then the bookmaker will do a runner. He's not very honest at all. But it'd be great fun with a lot of friends there. If you're just back from the pub or a party game, I can highly recommend Derby Day. A brilliant game. Now, this game shouldn't really exist. It's Doom, the pre-release version, never was actually released on the Spectrum, and it's doing absolutely crazy things here. How is Doom on the Spectrum with music? I do not know. Check this one out if you can get hold of it. It's really worth doing. There is enemies to shoot here as well, a number of levels. It'll keep you going for some time. Really impressed with this one. It was released in 1996, so too late for the Spectrum's run, but you know what they've done is a miracle. Sector Invasion, another homebrew. This plays great as well. It's a good shooter. Basically, you can't shoot the enemy here. It's about shooting all these obstacles to get to the next level without being hit yourself. I was really impressed with this one. The graphics are quite small, but the speed is good and the animation is good as well. Haven't reviewed any homebrews for a little while, but occasionally we drop into them, especially if they're this good. And I think there might be one or two other ones that we look at in this 50. Wonder Boy, a good platformer, let down a little bit by the monochrome of it, which happened in so many Spectrum games. It's a bit hard to see green on green, but it's a good one. It's a good attempt. Would have been a lot of people's favourites if they owned it back in the day. There's also Super Wonder Boy that I need to have a look at, but Wonder Boy's okay. I found it ever so slightly frustrating, but I find a lot of platform games frustrating. If I had this back in the day, you couldn't have been too disappointed, because what it attempts to do, it does rather well. Turbo Kart Racer, very frustrating top-down racing game. It has lots of colour clash. The merest touch with the other karts and you will explode. It seems very unfair sometimes with the drifting as you go into other cars. They'll crash into you and you will blow up. Not much sound to speak of. I got frustrated rather quickly. From the screenshots, you'd be mistaken to thinking it is quite good. It is good graphics, but the playability just is not there. So there's much better racers to be had. A Pac-Man clone, a GOBBLEMAN. Not bad one. I prefer Atari Soft's Pac-Man. Sometimes the controls are a little bit unresponsive in the heat of things. The ghosts do some weird things going backward and forward. It's okay, but as I say, there are much better Pac-Man clones out there. Check out Atari Soft's Pac-Man and Mus Pac-Man as your go-to games. There is another Pac-Man clone we'll come to in this one, which I think is ever so slightly better than this one, but it goes in its own direction. Excellent. 3D Monster Maze. This originally came out on the ZX81 in black and white. Someone has remade it as a homebrew in colour. You go around a maze. I don't think there was a map in the original one, but in this one there is. You go around down a colour maze. You must avoid a Tyrannosaurus Rex that's wandering around the place and find the exit. So the Rex has seen you in this one. So yes, and that's all there is to it really. Complete one maze and you go to the next maze. It always ends in death. Yes, no maze on the ZX81. The remake did. Grand Prix Simulator, a great top-down game, much better than Turbo Kart Racer. The cars are much smaller, which gives you more of an area to work with. It is fun, it's in the style of Super Sprint from the arcades, and I really enjoyed this game. It's quite good. It's got some speech in it every now and again as well, and speech as seeing a Spectrum game with speech in back in the day as a kid always impressed you, as long as it wasn't too much. Grand Prix Simulator, lots to like with this one. Grand Prix Simulator 2, trying to keep the ideas, but for my mind the car's a little bit too big. It still plays alright, but you've got less space to work with, and the fun of the first one is slightly gone. But it's alright though, it's not disastrous, and you can have some fun with this one at least. But given the choice of the two, I would pick the first one every time. It doesn't really feel like a Formula 1 car, feels like you're towing a caravan behind you, but moves quite quickly. All the cars are the same colour, which is disappointing, so sometimes it's hard to see who's who. Pick the first one. StarQuake, a classic game back in the day by Bubble Software, feels very much like an Ultimate game from 82 or 83 in the style of those Attic Attack ones, but a lot of people had this as their favourite games of all time, no doubt. I was new to it in the review. It's all about seeing how it plays the first or second time, so I didn't really know what I was doing. But the game is pretty good. With practice, I can see it's brilliant, sounds good, graphics are good, and it's of an era. So a really good game, StarQuake. Another homebrew, very influenced by Tetris, is ARCHEO Mania. I think it was out in the arcades as well. Different from Tetris is you must complete lines, but you must get that wandering lady there down to the bottom, as we've done there, without getting killed. Now, it will gradually go up. If her head hits the spike, she's crushed to death, so we must carefully guide her to the bottom of the screen by completing lines like these Tetris blocks. And that's pretty much it. Great music from level to level, from stage to stage. I'm a big fan of this one. Now, Twin World, a little bit underwhelmed by this. It's quite complicated, it's coded well, but a lot's going on with the monochrome, and it is quite difficult as well. I'd put it on a par with Wonder Boy, so I wouldn't say one is particularly better than the other one. Set in caveman times, it does go a bit around the place, collecting objects, shooting stuff, and getting items. Back in the day, you could have really got into this as a kid, so I'd say it's quite a good game, but not one of my favourites. Beverly Hills Cop, a complete mismatch of games, another selection of mini-games. Reviewed this on the Commodore Amiga. It's got this platform game first of all, then a racing game, and then an exploration game. I don't like it. It's not much like Beverly Hills Cop at all. Doesn't bring any of the fun from the film whatsoever. So they've just grabbed a license and bolted it on, to be honest with you. I played it with a poke so we could see all the levels. I didn't mind the racing stage, although it was a little bit flat. Beverly Hills Cop. StarFox, a space adventure in the style a little bit of Elite, where we go round the galaxy, blasting everything we can see and rescuing mankind from everything. StarFox come out on a number of systems. I do like the cockpit view on this one. It's nice style. You can fire missiles and there's big explosions, but they always look like a yellow globe. Quite often with these ones you're fighting TIE Fighter type stuff, because they all seem to be influenced heavily by Star Wars, but not a bad game, StarFox. A WIEDERSEHEN pet based on the TV show from the 80s, which stars some English expat builders who had gone to Germany. The TV show is good, the game is appalling. Another one of those ones where it's a set amount of mini games. This one is where you must build a brick wall up the screen without falling off. One is you have to wander around a pub collecting bottles. Another one, at night, you have to get home avoiding the police. It's all very boring. It feels very much like a typing game. Eric and the Floaters, a slight reworking from Bomberman. It's a curious name, this one. But you plant a bomb, then you must get the enemy to walk into that bomb. Once you've killed everyone on the screen, then it's on to the next stage. And that's pretty much it. Eric and the Floaters, so if you played Bomberman, you'll know what's going on with this one. They've reworked it so it's ever so slightly quicker, but you wouldn't buy one if you already had the other one. Eric and the Floaters, I don't know. Those things must be floaters, I presume. Vegetable Crash, a bit of a reworking of Galaxians, but this time instead of fighting aliens, you're fighting vegetables. Very, very weird. You're shooting things like strawberries and aubergines or radishes or whatever they are. I don't know what the thinking behind this one was. Maybe it was an idea to get kids to eat more vegetables, but they was always on the computer, so you had to put vegetables in front of them. There's not much to it really. It's a pretty basic shooter. Why you're shooting vegetables in space, I don't know. Metro Cross, excellent game from the arcades. Futuristic one, you're this guy running through stages of jumping over obstacles and you must complete it before the time limit. There's skateboards to jump on, bombs to avoid, squares that make you run quicker, springboards, and it's really addictive game, this one. I had great fun on this. Need to review it as well on the Commodore Amiga if I can find it, but Metro Cross is well worth a game tracking down. Heaps and heaps of fun. Kung Fu Master, well, you had to own this one back in the day to like it, I believe, because it is heavily flawed. It's one of those fighting games where you will be just using one move for most of the time. You go from right to left, stage 1, then left to right, stage 2, and there's an end of level boss at the end. I think it's one of those basic stories where you must rescue someone that's been kidnapped, either a family member or a princess or something like that. But you want to be extra skillful by doing various different moves, but it just rewards you having one move. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, brilliant book by Roald Dahl, terrible game. Lots of mini-games again, we're getting a pattern here of games with mini-games within them are terrible. This one is the first one where you must solve this pipework to rescue Augustus Gloop from hell. Once you complete all the mini-games, on side B is a very average platformer that's trying to be Jet Set Willy, but it just doesn't work at all. Very clunky controls and a frustration fest. Avoid this game. Disco Dan, now this is quite special. The first bit, you're running down a tunnel here to get to a nuclear plant. You must avoid everything in this fit-inducing tunnel. Then once you've done that, you go to a Cuba sort of clone, and by jumping on all these circles, you must stop them from going red. Yes, they're gradually going more and more radioactive. You've got to keep the temperature down. So it's a good game, Disco Dan. I'm not quite sure where they got the disco element in. This game is Total Recall from the films, plays a little bit different to the Amiga version, and it's ridiculously difficult. You only get one life, so I played it with a cheat on. You play Douglas Quaid over a number of levels. The first one is platform, then you go in Johnny Cabs in a sort of like racing game, but very few people would have completed even the first level because it's just so darn difficult, but it certainly looks good from the screenshots. Well worth playing with a poke on, I think, but nothing else. Fireman Fred, it might look a bit basic first of all because it jolly well is. You play this fireman and must rescue those people you can see waving at you, put them in the ambulance below, and then you'll get to the next level. Now, although this game is ridiculously difficult, what saves it is you can jump to any level you want actually in the game straight away without typing in any cheat codes or level codes, and that really makes it a lot more playable than it really was. If I was just stuck on level 1 the whole time, I probably wouldn't go again, but you can go to all different levels. Alchemist, this is another one of a curio. You control this wizard going around collecting objects so he can actually escape this place, but weirdly enough you can change into a duck. Yes, you've heard it right, you can change into a duck. You need to do this to fly to different levels. It's a very big sprite which makes a playing area very small. A curio, but I don't think I'd like to own it, that's it, back in the day. But a lot of rooms to explore here. You would have got your money's worth. Bear Bother, influenced by Burger Time. Now you see your vehicle down the bottom of the screen. There's magnets up the top of the screen. Bit much like Burger Time. By walking past those, they drop down the level, and you must get all 3 batteries into your car while avoiding the bother boys that walk around the screen. If you avoid them all and get the batteries in, then it's on to the next stage with an extra bother boy on the map as well to try and outrun. Really nice idea. The music does get very frustrating after a while. Impact, it's a breakout clone. Basically, I think you know already, is to shoot all the blocks and then on to the next stage. Every time the ball goes past you, you will lose a life. My favourite game of this sort of like type is Batty for sure, but this isn't bad for the time and it plays quite well as a breakout clone. Lots and lots of different stages. I think you would have liked it. The power-ups could be a bit more exciting than they are doing because it's a pretty basic game. Fighting Warrior. This game goes on forever and ever and ever. I would have liked it to be stage based rather than going on, so you must avoid arrows, kill everyone in front of you. You're in Egypt and then get to the end. It's one of those rescue the princess sort of games, and I've been told, I played it with a poke on of course, but I've been told that I gave up just a bit too early and the level would have ended. But you have to fight probably about 10 or 12 people, and I think I would have got bored as a kid really, to be quite honest with you. Cosmic Debris. Now this game plays really smoothly. It's an asteroid clone that was in the arcades. I do like the effect when you die. Early 80s this game, so back in the day really professional. Other asteroid clones are Meteor Storm and Meteoroids and Planetoids. This one is the most smoothest out of all of them, but I still prefer Meteor Storm. Thrust, hyperspace out the way when you need to. It's very difficult, so games won't be lasting too long. But look at the smoothness of this game. I'm not 100% sure how they did it. The Blue Max. This is a plane game. You must go on a bombing run, bombing as much things as you can, and then land the plane at the end. And that's pretty much it, really. Not much to the game, but it's well coded and it is addictive. I've been told the Commodore 64 version is better than the Spectrum version. Well, I need to find that out. I'm probably flying the plane a little bit too high here. Fly it lower. It's probably better for the bombing runs, and you get points for all tanks and bridges you take out. Dark Star, for my mind, this is slightly better than StarFox, although you haven't got the cockpit. Again, it's a similar thing. You're trying to shoot everything in space. You must find military outposts that are run by the aliens and destroy those. Dark Star. Also, there's these fighting scenes where you fight aliens in space. You can see your energy bar there dropping down the middle. I still haven't played Alien, Elite on the Spectrum, so we need to get that corrected. Moonwalker. Now, I like Michael Jackson, and I like all his music. I like Moonwalker in the arcades, but I do not like this. This is nothing like Moonwalker, the arcade game, or the game on the Sega Mega Drive. This one is 2D, and it is boring. Michael Jackson, if that is Michael Jackson, is walking very slowly around a maze. He must find, I think, 12 or 8 elements of a rabbit outfit. When he's found all those, he goes on to the next stage. And it is a bore fest, none of the excitement of Michael Jackson's music. Caves of Doom. This is a very interesting game, a mixed match of a lot of things. It's like Jetpack meets Attic Attack meets Manic Miner. The aliens, or the enemies you're against, aren't very varied. The fuel on your jetpack goes down quite quickly, but you can refuel it. It turns into an exploration game. You must collect objects and just escape from the actual thing. It's alright, but very frustrating indeed. Yes, these white people come after you. Crossfire, it's like an Operation Wolf. It's supposed to be set in Chicago, but it isn't. It's crying out for a light gun, but instead you have to do it all on joystick or the keyboard, I believe. Shoot everyone in the house without killing any of the citizens, and then it's on to the next stage. Not much to it, but it is quite addictive. You'll know what to do straight away. I really like this game. Few people thought it was awful, but I found it quite addictive once you start getting good at it. Crossfire. Jungle Trouble. Now, this game is very awkward to get going. You control, it's a time-based thing. You control this stick man. There's only one stage. You must jump with perfect timing on here, then go up the ladder, cut down the trees without getting your axe stolen by the monkey, jump over the flame pit, then jump across the end where a chasm opens up beneath you. I didn't mind it, but it's very frustrating indeed. Most of the time you'll be swearing to yourself, but a classic game nonetheless. Lunar Crabs, really loved this one. In the early 80s, you've landed on the planet Saturn, you're trying to mine resources, and all of a sudden you've been attacked by these crabs, which don't like you taking all their minerals, I suppose. That's all the gameplay there is to it. Shoot all the crabs, don't get shot yourself, and once you've shot them all, it goes on to a next wave of crabs. Goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Would have loved this as a kid. I would have been playing this for absolutely ages. As I say, not much to it, but addictive nonetheless. Hunchy, some awful speech in this. Good first of all, but it's really overused. Based on the Hunchback from the arcades, which very soon after, they didn't have the license and they had to remove it and then relaunched it as Punchy, where instead you're controlling a policeman rather than the Hunchback. But the stage 2 is extremely frustrating. And there is a taunting voice which laughs at you all the time when you don't do it. I mean, it's just like being bullied by your computer. Avoid this one completely. Monster Muncher, another Pac-Man clone, for my mind slightly better than GOBBLEMAN, only because it goes in its own direction. There's 10 different levels, and after each couple of levels you get an extra ghost. The ghost AI is pretty terrible, to be honest with you. They don't come after you or run away, but the Pac-Man is bigger, and I think the maze is slightly smaller. I think the graphics and animation work better for this sort of style, so I don't mind it, and the speed's good as well, and it gradually gets more and more chaotic. Look at the amount of ghosts here. Peter Beardsley's International Soccer, another one of those football games that don't quite work. Now, despite it being awful, you can get lots and lots of goals on it, which a lot of the games you can't do. So as a kid, I probably would have enjoyed it for that sort of element. I think my game ended up 8 plays 6 the first time I played it, but not a great game. Good to play once or twice, but yeah, just avoid it. There's better games available. And that makes up all 450 games reviewed so far on the channel. So I hope you like that instalment. Do check out the other instalments if you haven't already for reviewed games so far. There is a playlist. So we're going to steadily head on to 500. Thank you for watching again. Until next time, take great care of yourself and a very fond goodbye.
Goodbye.